Well, happy Friday, everyone. Happy Friday. Looks like we got some people in the chat already, so I love it. Welcome to Riff and Refine. Will is not here this week. He is speaking at ValioCon, and he hasn't told me anything about it yet. So hopefully it's been going good. I think he just got off speaking, or he's about to go speak. One of those two things. But instead, we have the incredible, the wonderful JS Joe. That's how I know him. But this is Joe Previte. Joe, how are you?
Great, dude. Josh, really good to see you. Thanks for having me on the show today. Yeah, we were getting into some things like prior to starting the show, so I'm really excited to kind of dive into those a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm excited. First off, I just want to say, like, it's cool because it looks like Joshua Clark. So how does that, like, it feels like a small world. So I just met Joshua at and I don't know, I forget Josh or Joshua if you go by either one, but I just met him at Laricon, and he had been following my YouTube channel for a while. So how do you two know each other?
I'm trying to remember. We are connected on LinkedIn. We were in a Discord group together. I'm forgetting. I think it was I'm pretty sure it was okay, so if you remember, do you remember Code Newbie, the podcast?
Yes, I love Code Newbie.
Okay. So Code Newbie, the podcast and the community, it was run by Saran. Saran, I believe, sold it. And then one of the projects that she started after was called, what was it called? It was Cash Money something.
Okay.
It was like kind of for like makers, kind of like people trying to like make money outside of their full-time job.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure both of us were in that Discord community, and I think that's how we met.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So
that's what,
small
it's funny. I'll let you say a little bit about yourself, Joe, and a little bit just like who you are, why you're here. But yeah, it's funny. People are like, hey, Prithviraj, good to see you. But yeah, missing Cap Guy. So Will, everyone called him Cap Guy last week, which is funny because I always wear a hat anyway. So
yeah.
Yeah, Will looks a little bit different today because it's not Will. But yeah, glad to have you here, Rafal. Disco Club, Joshua says, aka BCM.
Big Cash Money, I think it was called. Yeah.
Oh, I vaguely remember that. I was not a part of that, but I remember it on the Twitter sphere.
Yeah.
So before I have Joe introduce himself, it's funny because of how myself and Joe met. We're actually like, we live close to each other, even though we didn't meet in person that often, or for the first time, it was only like a couple of years ago, maybe. But I met Joe before I even knew how to code, or before I knew how to code well. I knew a little bit of HTML, a little bit of JavaScript, and this was probably I remember pulling it up a couple years ago. I think I was like, I think it was like 9 years ago, maybe even longer, when we had.
Are you serious?
First met. I think so, right? It would have been like 2018.
Okay.
Maybe 2017, honestly.
Where was it? I'm forgetting. Was it at a meeting? No. Was it online on Twitter?
Yeah, it was online because you had kind of put out, you're like, hey, I will meet with anyone who wants to learn how to get into to become a developer. And I was like, I had just lost my full-time job at the time. And I was like, I know that I would do this well. I just don't know where to start. And so I got on a call with you, and I think I was still at my, like, I think I know it was either 2016 or 2017 because I was not moved into my apartment yet. And I got on a call with you, and I was basically like, hey, I think I could do this really well. I've done a little bit of it. What do I do next? And Joe kind of sat with me and basically was like, hey, here's the resources. Here's what you should learn. And here's like, you're not going to find a job right away. And he was, I think, honest with me. But it was one of those things where, like, I remember that because that was one where we kind of like introduced and got met, and we've just been kind of keeping up with each other since. But also, like, it's crazy to think how much has happened since then. Of like, just, I feel like I've become a better developer since then, and crazy things happen in my life and your life, and we get to talk a little bit about today, which is fun.
That's insane. I'm totally remembering that. Yeah. So like to give more context, I think I was a new developer. I just like I taught myself how to code with free code camp. Was working my first full-time job for a place in Scottsdale. And I think I was just like, I probably read it from a book or something, was like, oh, you should like just meet with random people and see how you can help them. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I did this like JSJOIO office hours thing. I think they were like 15-minute calls, like pretty short.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
That takes us back.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually tried pulling up. I think we had done a couple of the office hours, or maybe like we did it, but like I might have been too far back. So 2019, it looks like, was at least the
2019.
first one I could find. So yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy for sure. I still think we had been introduced before then. And I think we might have had one or two calls, because I vaguely remember the office I was sitting at the time was at my parents' house, which was not in 2019. But yeah, still wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, Joe, tell everyone a little bit about yourself, other than you started coding and you're like, hey, I want to do office hours, and then you were in, BCM and all of this.
Mm-hmm.
What would you encapsulate yourself in a nutshell?
Oof.
It's hard to do, but
yeah, I would say, okay, so yeah, my story is basically, born and raised in Arizona, in Phoenix. Grew up here, went to college down in Tucson, which is, about 2 hours away from Phoenix, or hour and a half. Lived in California for a little bit. I was just kind of like trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life. Languages, like foreign languages, was a big passion of mine. So, speaking Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, I thought I was going to go that route. Ended up deciding that wasn't for me. Went down the rabbit hole of like teaching yourself how to code with free code camp. And yeah, just kind of hustled, like went to meetups, did internships, things like that, got my first full-time job. And that kicked off the like tech career. And the tech career has really been kind of like, I've worked at small companies. I worked at Facebook doing developer advocacy, lived in Seattle for a little bit, worked in crypto for a little bit, worked at a startup in the dev tool space. And right now I work in growth engineering at a company called Mercury, which is business and personal banking.
That's awesome. I love it. And how would you say your journey has kind of went from, or like, and it sounds like you kind of had a bunch of different maybe passions within development, in the sense that, even from when you first started, it was all about like helping other people. Has that shifted, or are you kind of still, you love like that aspect? Like, I know you like you did some like tutorials and stuff like that too for a stint. Like, how has that shifted, maybe with personal life or anything like that? Or what does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's a great question, and something I'm kind of thinking about lately, because it's like, so I guess to give additional context, I have 2 young kids, almost 4 and a year and a half. And I feel like there was a big shift. So before, I'm coding nights and weekends. I'm like doing side projects. Like, coding is craft and craft is fun.
Okay.
And there was a certain period. And then, you have your first kid and it's like, oh, I don't have 8 hours to like, mess around on this stupid JavaScript framework that's going to be outdated in 2 years. You know what I mean? And so there I kind of like had this shift in how I spend my time. And so I guess when you have that shift, it's like, okay, you really start to figure out, okay, like, what do I have time for? Because I have young kids, right? Like, I'm either going to wake up early to have personal time, I'm going to like work it out with my wife, or I'm going to do it when everybody goes to bed. Like, there's just, when you're working a full-time job at least. And so yeah, when we were doing the office hours, I did not have kids. I was just like excited. I was like, I'm excited about technology. I want to help other people. I was doing some tutorials. I was helping out at a meetup downtown Phoenix. All of my time outside of work was like really like around the hobby of like coding.
Yeah.
And doing side projects. And so that was kind of like a big chunk of my life. And, I did a lot of like egghead courses and things like that. And I feel like once you have kids, it is like so much harder to have a quiet space where you can record,
Oh man.
make video tutorials, like unless you've like got the environment, like it's not
Yeah.
impossible. So I still enjoy helping people, but like I'm a lot more reluctant
Different.
to like, yeah, I'm like reluctant to be like, hey, let's hop on a call, you know, or like
Yeah.
it's a lot more async, I would say these days. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's definitely shifted in how I think about indie hacking too, or like side projects.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. And then so it's funny that I feel like this kind of turns into a parenting show in some ways. But for those who are watching
Yeah.
/ listening right now, it's more than that, because I think I want to dive into, first of all, what did you do this last week, Joe? How did your last week go? So
Mm,
we start off this show by
yeah.
kind of reminiscing on this last week. How was it? What's on your mind from that, basically? And then we'll
Hmm.
jump into some things that you and I both want to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So I like to use my calendar. I use my calendar a ton. So um last week, couple things. So Monday was Labor Day. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Didn't
it's been a long week, so I forgot that it was just this past Monday. Yes,
yeah.
two.
Okay.
Was it last Monday? Was it last Monday or this Monday?
It was Monday the 1st.
Okay,
So
so last Monday.
last Monday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So didn't have work. And my daughter is at a school, and the teacher organized like a trip to the zoo. So we went to the Wildlife World Zoo, which is like 45 minutes from me. It's in Litchfield Park, basically, if you know where that is.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I know that.
So we did that. We were doing some like house projects, finishing up some like touches to my daughter's room because she had some like some issues. We had to like repair the drywall, and then we had termites that we had to treat for. Um, I went to basketball at this church that we were thinking about maybe going to. It was like men's basketball.
Yeah.
Got an oil change, and then my car broke down on Sunday.
Oh no.
So it was one of those weeks.
One of those weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. My past week was kind of similar in the sense that it just feels like Labor Day was like a whole like 3 months ago kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have been doing I kind of said this last Riff and Refine show on last Friday. But I have been doing this, I don't know, this habit now, but it's basically a podcast where it is my almost journalistic type thoughts. And by journalistic, not like reporter journal, more of like, this is my voice journal notes.
Okay.
There's this guy in the Laravel ecosystem named Caleb Porzio, and he has a podcast called Notes on Work.
Okay.
And it's basically just him turning on the mic and just talking about whatever's on mind, like no notes, anything like that. And so that's what I wanted to do, mostly because I wanted to kickstart it and try to become better at just talking freely, especially around a specific subject. But then two, I also wanted to make sure like that the first thing I did in the morning was something I wanted to write more, and I write by talking. So I was like, okay, if I ever wanted to write blog posts, I first just need to like speak through things. And if I make it a podcast, then it feels a little bit more formal and intentional. And my goal is eventually like taking those and like making, maybe using AI and like, you know, editing it down a little bit and then making those as blogs. So this week this was my second week of doing it every day. So this was what this morning I published my 14th, little 6 to 9 minutes, just me talking about random things. But it feels like, definitely the second week feels different than the first week. It just feels like I have to do it. And it felt great. I did realize I started talking about similar things that I feel like I have every day, but at the same time, I'm learning a little bit about what is on my mind in the mornings, because I don't think about it until I literally press record, and then I try to come up with a name first, and then within 2 minutes I press record and I just talk about it kind of thing. But yeah, it's been a good experiment. I'm gonna try to at least do it every day throughout the month of September, and then see where it kind of goes from there.
What kind of topics are you talking about?
Kind of a little bit of everything. Yesterday, I talked a little bit more about worldly events than I otherwise probably normally would.
Oh,
But then,
yeah, yep.
but then everything else has just kind of been, like, just like little maybe analogies or maybe stories that I thought like that there was one that is kind of top of mind for me just because it was literally just delivered today. I've been building out. I play keys and I play like guitar, and for the longest time I've wanted to build my own keytar, basically like a keyboard I can hold while
Okay.
I'm like on stage. And uh I want it to be all encapsulated. So everything like the synth engine, everything like that was just all built into this one piece that I can hold. And I knew I wanted a sustain pedal. And for those who like don't know about pianos or like keyboards, sustain is basically usually most keyboards you can connect this little pedal, and usually you press on it with a foot, and you're like, okay, as I'm playing, I'm pressing it and it rings out. If I was taking my hands off, it rings out until the next time you lift it up and press down. So it's this modulation pedal. And I knew I wanted one for my guitar because as I'm playing, I wanted to also with my left hand have that be the pedal. But every keyboard sustain pedal is gigantic. It's meant to be like so sturdy it doesn't move as you're pushing it. And I didn't want to have a huge gigantic piece, and so I was looking everywhere for it. And I eventually was like, maybe I'll just solder myself one. Like I'll just find a switch, and there was like these arcade switches that I was like, okay, that might work, and I can solder it to a little TRS cable, and like I was about to go that DIY route. And then randomly I did like another search. I was just like TRS cable momentary switch. And I found a tattoo shop that they have a very, very tiny foot pedal. So it's meant for like a tattoo gun, but it is exactly what I need. And I bought it. And it was like 10 times cheaper than building myself too. But so like the whole episode that morning was like, it was after I found it. And I was like, sometimes I was thinking about sometimes you have to find the tools that you need by figuring out what you actually need and looking places that you wouldn't have otherwise looked.
That's super fascinating.
It was a weird discovery. And then it was also weird because the what was it called? Now I'm like going to have to look it up. But basically where I bought it from, the tattoo shop place was called Painful Pleasures. And so my wife like gets this because we have like our budget. She gets like this email of like, oh, like Josh, $9 at painfulpleasures.com or something like that. So that was a fun little
oh man, she was probably worried when she saw that.
She's like, what is going on?
What's going on here?
Yeah.
Oh man.
So that's basically just what I've been doing every day. Is just I'll have like something that's on my mind, and I'll try to. It's my way of. I would never make a YouTube video about something like that, and I would want to blog about it, but I don't write well. So it's my way of trying to write better while also like getting that out of maybe the the little motivational or quirky analogies, stories that I would otherwise like to share, but I haven't had a place to share them.
It's such an interesting idea. And another quick question about that is, are there any overarching themes that you're noticing yourself think about, at least in the last 2 weeks? Like if you zoom out?
Overarching themes is probably like the planning utilization of ideas in a lot of ways. So like it's been mostly of, hey, I thought I would do this because I wanted to write more, but not only did that, it's kind of like came out that, oh, I actually just like talking about, um, you know, being productive and what does that look like for me? Or like I changed this thing and it's helped me do this. And so now, like one of the episodes, I kind of just talked about how I've always sucked at to-do lists. I usually just have thousands of things on a to-do list and I'll just kind of pick which ones. And usually I have a good way of like putting them all out, but then like actually doing them, it's like, oh, I got 9 things done today, but not the 1 or 2 that I really wanted to get done. And so
Okay.
this past week, I've literally just wrote down one thing I want to do. As long as I do that thing for that day, I feel more accomplished. So it's little things like that. But I think I've also kind of learned that I just like the accomplishment piece too of like
Mm,
as soon as it's almost why I started this show as well. Is like if there was only this show and then now it's like, oh, the my what I'm calling good makers morning. Like if I do that in the morning, I feel like I start the day, I already did something. And now I'm like in this progression of, okay, now what next can I do? And I'm not a morning person. And so starting the day like, 8 a.m., 8:30 of like first saying words and trying to articulate them, putting it on a podcasting platform, and then going throughout the day it's been huge.
mm. Dude, that's awesome. It's interesting. And I'm wondering, is it just like, I'm wondering if other people do that with voice notes because I have a best friend and we send each other voice notes. Like we've been doing it maybe 2 years now. And a lot of times it is just like an 8 minute, like, here's what's on my mind at work, at home, whatever. Um,
Yeah. I love that.
so there's something satisfying about like voicing your thoughts
Oh yeah.
and then, having somebody else hear it, like if you have a friend or just like, yours being like on a podcast so you could go back and listen.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like I will find myself. It sounds weird. I watch my own videos, and that's more of like to like, you know,
Yeah.
what did I do good, that kind of thing. But I found myself like listening to these mostly to like remember what I was thinking about, like in that moment. Because like sometimes it's not scripted, so I'm trying to get better at doing that. Yes, but then
Okay.
also I'll think back and be like, oh yeah, at the beginning of the day, this is what I was thinking about, and like that was what was on my
Mm,
mind. And it's cool to have that. I don't know that. Yeah, I guess like a journal. I never journaled before, but it's cool to have that momentary place and time where it's like, this is what I was thinking about. This is what was important to me, at least in those 5 minutes this morning, kind of thing.
And when you record these, does it ever cross your mind that your kids might go back in 10 years and listen to this?
It kind of does. I have thought about that a little bit too, and that might be like a really good segue into one thing that you want to talk about too,
Mm,
um, or that I saw your notes on. But is this aspect of everything that I'm doing, I have to kind of be cognizant of one, people that I know, because it's really funny. And you probably know this a little bit too, Joe. Is like there's people that I know in person who have no idea what I do. They don't know that I do a podcast every week, and they don't know I do a podcast every day, and they don't know that I have a YouTube channel even. Like most people in my personal life don't know that. They just
yeah.
know, oh, like you do something with videos and cameras and you have a family and kids and stuff like that. So like it's like this aspect of I never want anything I do to feel weird if someone finds out. It's not like I'm hiding anything, but I don't advertise it out to everyone like, hey, watch my YouTube channel. Some people find it and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, but it's cool.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
but it is interesting to think of, okay, when my kids get old enough, like one, like maybe it's just a great thing to kind of like leave them of most of my things, probably a lot of them, even just these past couple weeks have hinged around, oh, like, you know, things that they're doing or shows they're watching with Bluey or something like that. Um, but yeah, it's a fun concept to think of like this not really. I don't think it's fully a legacy at that point, but it's more of like this uh seeing a different side of
Mm,
dad that you might not have otherwise seen, because they're going to have a different experience of me. It was like the first time I saw my dad was a highway patrol officer growing
okay.
up, and the first time I saw him give a speech, I think it was basically like he was kind of detailing one of the cases he was working on. And I remember because it was like part of an award ceremony. And so we all went. I think that was really the first time I saw him at work. And it was just this weird feeling.
Mm,
Because like we always saw him in like uniform, but it was at the end of the day and he was like finishing up, that kind of thing, or before or when he was home for lunch. But finding
mhm.
what or seeing people that in a different section, especially as parents, is shocking in a lot of ways. Like to know that, oh, like, I feel like my kids would be like, "Dad talks differently when he's
Yeah, yeah.
in front of a camera than he does when me." And I don't know if maybe that's me, like, now thinking, "Oh, maybe I should pay more attention to that," or I don't know. It's a good
Mm.
thought. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I know. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, there's two thoughts. Like one is, I wonder what the consequences has a negative connotation. We'll say effects of like us working at home where our kids see us, right? Like, you
Yeah.
know, your kids are home most of the day. It sounds like my kids are home most of the day.
Yeah.
And so like this, like my office is in the master bedroom. And so
Okay.
like my kids come in throughout the day. And so like it's just such a weird concept. Um, and it makes me wonder how it's going to affect them, because it's like when I grew up, my dad, he ran a pool cleaning business. So he was he was never there if he was working, obviously, because he was cleaning
Yeah.
pools. But like my kids like see me, like we could, when we traveled a little bit to Colorado, and like I'm working there with my laptop. And so I just, when you don't have, like when you have the boundaries, like the physical boundaries of a
Mm.
work office, like, or when you don't, I guess the absence of it, it just makes me wonder, how is that going to affect the kids? Like the way I think about it is with my dog. So I have two dogs. One dog was raised by my wife when she was in grad school at her parents'
Okay.
house when she lived there. The other dog we got as a puppy right after I got a remote job.
Yeah.
So this puppy grew up with me always there, like her being under my chair while I'm working.
Yeah.
Um, so she is very much a homebody and like loves people. And so are my kids maybe in the early days going to have a harder time being independent because
Mm.
they're always around either me or my wife? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting. And I even saw it on a very, very small scale. First off, Emmett, glad to have you here speaking into the world. Josh, yeah, I find the explaining of what I do for work difficult at times. Yes, it is. It is very hard sometimes as developers, I think, to explain what we do for work. Especially when you get into, I found this for Laravel with like open source stuff versus products. Like that's a whole different topic. But Evan, remembering teachers, doctors are people outside those walls is wild. It is true. It is true. And then, hi, Mr. Mustard. How are you doing? How are you doing? We're doing pretty well. We're talking about basically just because myself and Joe work from home, and we're both parents. So how does that affect us?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yeah, last year when I was unemployed, and then basically for like the whole year until we moved into this house, I still worked from home because I was unemployed until April or May when I got a job with Laravel. But just with how small our house was at the time where we were living, and with what I needed to do, and my kids were very young, and we like the walls were very thin, so I couldn't record videos. I couldn't do any calls really. It was just very loud, and so I moved my office to an empty room at my church, which was about 2.5 miles away. But pretty much 4 out of 5 days a week, I worked there for almost the whole day. And it was interesting to see how it affected my kids because one was a younger 1-year-old, and then a 3-year-old, and the 3-year-old had only known me as working from home in my office, like being able to open the door, say hi to me. And so the concept of like me coming home and then like realizing, oh, I'm not like if I'm not there all the time, it was really interesting to see. Whereas the 1-year-old kind of went from that experience to now I'm home all the time. It's just weird. It's weird to see for sure.
Super weird. Super weird. And like, I don't know, I'm curious if your kids do this too. Like, you know, because I work from home, and also my kids are young, your kids are young. It's hard for them to grasp the concept of like working days, like Monday through Friday versus a weekend.
Yeah.
Right. Cause like, and so, I always laugh when my daughter is like, do you have to work today or do you have to work tomorrow? Cause like, she
Yeah.
doesn't know the difference, so.
Yeah. Yeah. It is funny, especially when it's like, especially when, as you know, like if you're going somewhere, and whether you're on vacation or not, usually you bring your laptop and you probably are doing some type of work kind of thing. And so it's always funny when I'm trying to explain to her, okay, I'm doing work in here, but sometimes I might be doing work and I'm sitting next to you on the couch or something like that. Is the concept of work is very hard to very hard to identify.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, what do you have on your mind other than work and working from home? What's on your mind? What's a topic that you have just been thinking about, maybe like the last week, month, whatever it might be?
Okay, yeah, definitely want to talk about the detox. But before that, I would love to talk about and get your thoughts on this idea that the bar is low.
The bar is low. Okay.
Yeah, like super low. The bar feels super low for businesses and friendships. And I'll open it up with that of
Okay.
what are your thoughts?
Interesting. Okay, those in the chat, do you agree? The bar is low for businesses and friendships. That's your like hypothesis.
That's my hypothesis.
Businesses and friendships. I don't know about businesses. I agree with friendships. I agree with golden topic, Joe. I love it. Businesses, like maybe like there's a good way to like define it there. I think the bar is low, and like I think we've been saying this for forever. I think the bar is low for getting recognized when finding a job. And I will say this as someone who I had a hard time finding a job last year.
Yep.
But I think the bar is low, and maybe that extends into businesses. The bar is low for effort put into things around work, which includes finding a job and probably like just being like, there's so many times when I feel like I go through a week and sometimes I'm like, oh, like I could have worked harder at my day job this week. And usually that leads to me spending more times like nights and weekends doing it, because I was like, I need to do better at this. And most people, and like I agree to some extent, most people would say, well, you shouldn't do that. You are only dedicated a set amount of time or hours usually to work for this company. So like if you didn't get the stuff you needed to get done, oh well, that like just do it next week kind of thing. And so I think the bar is low because there is that dilemma where a company doesn't care about you. And I agree to that to some extent, in the sense of like you are replaceable.
Yeah.
And I have seen it. And a lot of people who are very high performers have seen it. But at the same time, I don't want my work to feel replaceable either, or my effort to feel replaceable. So I agree. I think that is a low bar. And then friendships, that's an interesting one. This one is tough for me because, so for those who don't know, I do like attend church, and I also like have a lot of my friends are probably 80% at my church. And if I did not have my church, I probably would not have friends, or outside of work, probably then. I don't know how I would find friends, honestly. And so I think the bar is low because there is no place outside of, I personally think would be, your kids or church or some kind of hobby. the gym. But even there, I agree that the bar is low because it's like you basically like, oh, do you live, breathe, and have like an inkling of like the same kind of the same kind of passion? Well, yes, then you're
Yeah.
good. Well, what about you?
Yeah.
What made you start thinking of this? Like, what was that?
Yeah, I think so. Like, the thing that stood out to me at work, or stands out, I guess, is like that people care, right?
Mm,
So, like, a great
okay.
example, which I often talk about, is we have a channel on Slack called Product Bugs. And so, if you see a bug on the website, in the app, in the code base, I don't know, wherever, you post it in there. And 9 times out of 10, within a couple hours, somebody will tag the right team or forward it to their team's channel. And we're like, for reference, I'm at a company that's like 900 people. Um, but I have never been at a company where people actually care. Like, if I'm
Yeah.
like, this button looks a little off, like
Mm,
they might tag a designer and be like, you know what, you're right. Or somebody will like actually just put up a PR and fix it. And so seeing that at work, for I've been at this company almost 2 years, just kind of changed my perspective on like care and quality.
yeah.
And
Okay.
so going back to the businesses part, great example that I experienced like last week was went to go, kind of looking at car shopping.
Mm,
And one of the people that we were talking to was great. I contacted them, said it was coming in, came in, showed us the car, blah, blah, blah. Gave me his business card. Wanted to talk to him the next day. So pull out his business card and it says main line. And I'm like, okay, cool. Call the main line. After like 3 rings, it just hangs up on me. So I'm
mm,
like, oh, that's weird. Maybe my phone, buzzed out. Call again, same thing. It's like, okay. So I look up on Google the name of the dealership, call them, and I'm like, hey, I called this main line and there's no voicemail, just dies. And he's like, doesn't even care. And I'm like, like that is like a product quality deficiency, like, or service, I guess, in this case. And it's like,
yeah.
like, it just doesn't seem like people care enough to like investigate and fix that, right? It's like, how hard could it be to have it go straight to voicemail? I don't know.
Mm,
That's an example. We were doing some house stuff. And so like getting different quotes on like contractors, people not calling back, people saying they're going to do something and then not
yeah.
doing it, like people being late. Like it just feels like the bar is low for like a service business. I don't know.
That is that the service business itself is like that's a whole other topic and one like I definitely agree with one of those things is like I think I have found over the course of my life, especially as I gotten, thankfully, like I have a better paying jobs and better income to be able to do this. So I get that there's that, the added benefit of my lifestyle, which others might not get to do. But there's so many things I've learned that I don't want to do myself that I try to pay others to do when it comes to things around the house or landscaping or stuff like that. And it is crazy how the bar is literally, I'm like, oh, that is a good contractor if they like answer me.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
It's
doesn't
like
that blow your mind?
if
Like,
if there's good communication and like, but I think like it's
yeah,
true
yeah.
with friendships. It's like they're a good friend if when I text them, they text me back.
Okay, you hit the nail on it. That's what I was going to bring up. Like, literally, that's it. Like, even if you're too busy, like, hey, I can't hang out, or like, hey, sorry, I can't talk on the phone today. Like, literally just responding. It doesn't have to be immediate.
Yeah,
I don't know, within 24 to 48 hours, maybe a couple days later. Just even, yeah, it's just, it blows my mind.
yeah. But I agree that it is completely different. Even though I feel like it's a similar low bar for friends and businesses, it is completely different for businesses because it's literally like, I am going to pay you. Like, come do
I
this
want
for
you
me.
to take my money. Yeah, literally.
Take my money. And it's hard to get people to take money right now. In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like
So,
I have started, and I don't know how far this. I might take notes, and maybe this will be my podcast for tomorrow morning. But I've started for those small things, like for example, I don't have too much of a yard in Arizona, as Joe knows. You don't have yards. It's not like you have a whole bunch of grass out front. It just dies, and you might have cactus. Some people have grass. I don't. I don't envy those people because that's a lot of work in Arizona. But I love, like, I have probably 4 little bushes in my front yard, and then I have and that's about it. Maybe
Mm.
5 bushes in my front yard, and then that's it. And the backyard is just turf. But I was like, I like went on Thumbtack and reached out to like 3 or 4 people, and one of them responded. I sent back saying, "Hey, literally, you can come by anytime. I will pay you." And then I haven't heard back from since then. And so I am thinking about like I am just going to there are like teenagers that I know in my church. I might just like say, "Hey, I'm going to pay you $50." And that's probably like less than what it would cost for someone else at Thumb to do it. But $50 is a lot of money for a 14-year-old kind of thing. I'll pay you $15. Just come like cut these. I don't honestly care how they look. I just want them done so my HOA doesn't yell at me. So like
Mm.
maybe the low bar for businesses can be replaced by a higher bar for friends.
Wait. I like where you're going with that. Explain it a little bit more because it didn't click for me yet.
Maybe usually, especially within like a service business, usually like we're always trying to find, okay, well, what's the replacement for this? Or like
Mm.
I am switching off of T-Mobile or I'm going to Verizon. Usually for those kind of situations, it's easy to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to ask my friends and maybe someone that I haven't talked to in a while of like, okay, well, who have you had a good experience with for this? Do you have any recommendations?
Yeah.
So maybe we should like also think of, instead of having recommendations for friends, it could also be like, hey, I need this done. Do you know anyone like who's willing to like any people who are willing to like do this for me too?
Oh, almost like creating jobs within your friend network. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Which could be interesting at a place like a church where you have like what I'll call distribution, right? Where like you've got you've got people who go to the church. There's probably young people who want to make an extra buck.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, let's post odd jobs. Like, they get a little bit of money, you get help you need. It helps the church, like it helps everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's an interesting idea.
Well, contractor network of friends
Yeah.
in a sense. Because like usually
man.
people learn like, oh, I do website stuff. So anyone wanting to do stuff usually asks me. I never have the capacity to do it, but at least then I know,
Yeah.
okay, well, when other people do it, or like if people want to take guitar lessons, like those
Yeah.
things are easy. But I feel like there's this boundary where we usually always push into professional work, but maybe that isn't necessarily the case for everything too. Like there's probably people who do professional landscaping or professional, I don't know, plumbing, and usually we don't go to our friends first with that. Just a thought.
That's an interesting idea. I'm picturing like when my kids are older, like, like you and your friends are going to change the oil in the car. I want to pay you guys $50. Like, I don't know. Like, it's an interesting idea. And like, yeah.
But if like you can't teach them, or like maybe like for something like that, where it's like, okay, I can spend the time to teach them. I don't like doing it. I'm not good at it. But maybe like I have a friend who could teach them. And it's like, okay, now we're helping each other in a lot of ways. I don't know.
Yeah. Huh.
It's interesting. Josh, for us, it's about character traits and values. Examples are respect, follow through, honesty, consideration. Okay, so that's the litmus test by which you measure good friends. I love that. Respect, follow through, honesty, consideration. That was one of my daily thoughts this week in the podcast, was not just good friends, but how hard it is to make friends as an adult compared
Dude, we could talk.
to kids. That's a whole that's 3-hour topic right there.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's so fun. But I think this detox thing kind of has similar traits in a lot of ways. Because I would say it's hard to make friends usually because everyone's just so self-contained. So tell us about this detox first, and then you can rant about that. Then we can rip.
Oh man. Do you want to dive into Daniel's comments here real quick before?
Yeah, let's do that. It's my personal belief that the majority of the deficiencies in government business should be picked up by individuals' communities. See, I like that. We're one step closer to a commune at that point, you know? And I love it. No,
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I have always said that if I am rich, and when I say when I get really rich, I just want like all my friends to live like maybe it's like an island, maybe it's just 100 acres that I buy out, and we just like no one like maybe this is getting into Amish country at that point. I watched an Amish episode with Theo Vaughn with this Amish kid who was talking to Theo Vaughn. It was really interesting. Yeah, maybe they have some things right. What were you gonna say?
Honestly, yeah. Yeah, no, it's an interesting idea what Daniel's proposing. I mean, even just like getting a group of your neighbors together to like pick up some trash, like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Like the city, there's like not enough people in the workforce and like they have competing priorities. So like that could be an easy one picked up by the community.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that idea.
I love it. So speaking of a detox, I'll post a link to your blog post. But tell us in a nutshell, what did you do? And then we'll get into the why after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Emmett, tech Amish community. See, that sounds amazing to me.
Yeah. Oh man, that would be interesting. Yeah. So the detox. So, I recently, probably the last like 2 years. Well, I mean, it's been a long time since I guess I've focused on health, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of like just always been like a healthy person in the sense of like played sports, tried to eat decent, took nutrition class in college, worked out, all that. When I married my wife, though, kind of took it to the next level. And so like, I don't know, in the last like 1 or 2 years, we've really been focusing on it. Like I would say eating clean has been the like theme of our family. And so that has made me start following more like health accounts on like Twitter and X. And there's a guy I follow, and he had talked about this idea of a dopamine detox, which was basically this idea of let's take 7 days and let's do no content. So no YouTube, no music, no Spotify, no Apple Music. Which I can hear you like your reaction to that already. Eating healthy, right? So like prioritizing like whole foods over like processed foods, which, again, I was already kind of doing that. Getting up early, going to bed early, trying to minimize time on your phone to like an hour a day. Minimizing your texting and calling. Trying to avoid like sweets and desserts. What else? That's really kind of it. And then like more walking without your phone or like any agenda, walking and being in nature, reading, trying to be creative. So like maybe it's coloring, drawing, I don't know. So yeah, I saw this on Twitter and I was like, can't do it this week, but I want to do it. So I added it to my calendar and was like, this Monday, I'm going to do it, a couple, whenever that was. And it was just eye-opening, man. It was, yeah.
That's awesome. I guess my first question is, what did you, I guess you kind of talked about, okay, what did you consider dopamine? But how did you come to that decision of like what was classified as the things that you were going to try to detox from?
Yeah, so I'll post the tweet in the chat here, and you can post this. Oh wait, it won't let me post it.
Oh, okay.
Can I post it? Can I message it to you?
Yeah, message it to me, and I will.
Okay,
I'll put that in the chat.
Okay. Anyways, yeah. So while you're doing that, so yeah, I just kind of like his tweet is pretty long in kind of what he considers dopamine again, which is like screens, so like phones, media, so social media, music, podcasts, so like audio content, texting, calling, right? There's a little bit of a dopamine. Anything that kind of like triggers this like, I'll call happiness feeling. processed foods, like anything that's got like a lot of sugar or additives, staying up late, again, which you'd probably do because you're watching a show or something, or coding. Yeah, so I just kind of use that as like my like guidebook.
Okay.
And yeah, because I mean, if you think about it, right, like you get a dopamine hit when like you go grab a snack. You get a dopamine hit when you have dessert, when you like see a text from a friend who you haven't talked to in a while.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how I classified it. And yeah, I'll pause there.
Yeah. Okay. So my initial thoughts.
Okay.
Is dopamine different for everyone? Like the categories of that? Because my initial thoughts is I almost, and maybe like the one that is like interesting to me is the music piece. And it's because
Okay.
I'm a musical person. Like I
Yep.
like, and for my job, like on weekends at my church, like I kind of have to listen to music or at least play it at least. And maybe that's like completely different. That's a job. It's not part of it. But how, like a lot of my, and I think you even mentioned this in your blog post. So like you had those moments where like normally with your kids, you would put on a song and like play, dance, that kind of thing. And I guess like I understand how it is dopamine. I don't think I'm disagreeing with that. I think I'm disagreeing with that doesn't seem the same scale as
Mm,
me scrolling on Twitter or even, like I can see almost everything else being similar. I
mm,
see the music piece and maybe podcasts too, but that might be a little. I see that as similar to like reading or if we were creating something in a lot of ways.
mm.
And so maybe
Yeah.
that's like that's the piece that like maybe like rub me a little wrong in the sense of like I
Yeah.
think of, and maybe this is something that you can kind of talk to regarding your blog post too. Like I think of the times when I have fun with my kids. Like most of the time we're like doing a weird dance to like a Frozen song or something like that. Um, or like I am listening to music or listening to a song and then I think of something that then makes me want to, spend time with my kids or something like that or
Mm,
want to then read or get
hmm.
pushed into creation kind of thing. So what are your thoughts on that? What's the difference between consuming for dopamine versus consuming for creation maybe?
Mm. I think I would classify it in more of like comfort and creation. So comfort, right? Like I'm cooking dinner and I like to have background music. But if
Yeah.
I have background music, I'm probably not going to talk to my kids, right?
Okay.
Like if
Okay.
I don't, because it's kind of like distracting, I guess, a little bit. I don't know. So
Yeah.
like because I can't put the music on and cook and like get in the zone, like my kids are over there. So like, I'm kind of bored just cooking alone with no music. So like I'm gonna talk to them more. So that's kind of
Yeah.
one I would say. The
Okay.
second, the second would be on the creation. Like I think there's a very big difference, and you would probably agree because you're a musician, but like me listening to music, right? I can do it in like 2 seconds,
Mm.
requires little effort, quick dopamine hit. But like me, like grabbing the ukulele, which I don't know how to play, or like grabbing a guitar and like trying to compose from nothing,
Yeah.
that taps into like a different part of your brain. So kind of like what Joshua was saying, like these more like tangible activities. Like I think that's what it's trying to encourage, this idea of this detox.
Mm.
Um, because like there is a dopamine that you get from like coloring a picture and like seeing that it's done, or
Yeah.
like reading a book, like a chapter. But it's slower. Like so it's trying to break this instant gratification you get from like hitting play on the Spotify or Apple Music.
Okay. I get that too. Cause that is one of the things that like me and my wife try to do is like once a week we do, okay, no show. We're just going to, we're gonna talk, and like play a game or something like that. Because it just gives us a time. We do talk like during a show too, especially like if it's just background noise kind of thing. But it is that sense of it is different when it's intentionally stopping the background noise in a lot of ways. And so I do get that. I do get that. It's probably like the thing then of like maybe it's active listening. Maybe that's what it is. So maybe like the difference between active listening versus filling space in a lot of ways. So, for example, if I'm working out, that is my time. I love like either listening to music during that because one, like that's one of the few times I am not doing anything else besides listening to music. Or I am listening to like an audiobook or a podcast. And I feel like that I'm actively listening into it other than when if we're in a car and we're driving somewhere, then it's more like background noise in a lot of ways. So maybe like that would be my distinction then. Is like, is it the sole purpose? So like if I was dancing with, or like my girls wanted to play a game where like we were all dancing together. Usually we're dancing to the music and it's not the music happens to be there. Would you agree, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, the one thing I should clarify, because my buddy brought this up, was like, he was like, what's the point? Like, if you're not going to continue this after the 7 days, why are you doing it?
Okay. Yeah.
Because like, I'm not going to give up music forever, obviously.
Yeah.
It's more of I would say an experiment to see how you feel, how you think, how you react.
And probably then like, did you then appreciate things like that you had given up better in a lot of ways?
Music. I did not realize how much I took music for granted. Granted.
Okay.
The daughters thing's interesting. So like my kids have a Tony box, which if you're not familiar, it's this little, looks like a speaker and you put characters on it.
Yeah. Those things are awesome.
So like, obviously I'm not going to say to my kids, you guys can't use that this week. You know what I mean?
Because I'm doing this, so you guys can't. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But one thing I did notice, like, cause like typically when we drive with kids, like I'll put on Frozen, and so I said to my daughter, we're not doing music. So like she was like making up songs and just like singing to herself. Yeah. So like, again, it's like you unlock this different side of your brain out of boredom, honestly.
Which brings me to the one topic I did want to kind of touch on, because you had kind of mentioned, I forget how you worded it in your blog post. I'll have to look through it. But it was something that I had heard someone say, in the sense of there comes a point in our life, especially our adult life, and I don't know when this happens. I think it's happening younger and younger, which is a completely different topic, where we forget how to be bored, or we forget how to know how to be bored, or what even boredom even looks like. Because as adults, if you're bored, you open up your phone and you scroll through, or sometimes when I'm bored, like I would just scroll through my texts and be like, did I miss anybody like from like the last 3 months kind of thing? And if you get a text from me when you haven't heard from me in like 3 months, it's probably like not because I'm bored, but that is one outcome to it, is now I'm catching up and we're trying to remember all the things I should have been doing at some point in time. But I think it's interesting to watch my kids, and my oldest, who is 3, just started learning what the boredom means, in the sense of like I probably learned it from a TV show or Bluey or something like that, where it's like, I'm bored, like I don't know what to do. And usually then it's like, okay, well, play this, like play, with your magnet blocks, or like play with your Lego or something like that. And then it's like, well, can you do it with me? Or I don't know how to do it by myself. And there's times when of course I like go and play with them, but there's times when I'm trying to push them more of like learning how to play with yourself, like play by yourself, because I think I'm learning this now where I don't necessarily know how to do that well. Usually if I have a complete slack of mine, I try to then consume of like, okay, let me pull up one of the 10 books I'm reading and let me start reading. I don't know. It has been a long time since I have just actively like sat and thought.
Dude, that was like a big realization too. I would say, I mean, I'd love to hear from the chat if anybody disagrees, but I think like 9 out of 10 people probably don't like sit down and think, like have time for just like thinking, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And I think because we're constantly jumping between things where it's like, I'm talking to you right now. After this call is over, I'm going to go check Slack. After that, I'm going to go check my phone and see if any missed texts. After that, I'm going to go eat. Like you're just going from thing to thing to thing. And you know, basically in the evenings, like my wife and I will put the kids down at like 6:37, and then like she'll usually watch a show, and then I'll listen to a podcast or read. During the dopamine detox, I was just like sitting there bored out of my mind.
You're like, I have so much time. I don't know what to do with it.
Literally, and I was like,
you were like gardening at night.
Yeah, because she goes to yoga some nights, and so I was like, the kids are in bed. I've already eaten dinner.
You would normally probably watch a show or something.
I would watch a show or like scroll Twitter or like listen to a podcast, and I was like, I can't do any of that. So like, I guess I'm gonna go pull some weeds. Like,
that is wild.
And the thing that I realized that when having all that thinking time was like, my brain felt calmer. Like it almost felt like imagine if you're sitting watching a TV and like you have access to 100 or 200 channels. It's so overwhelming, but you don't realize it until you limit the channels to like 3. Because it was like, I've got work, I've got family, and I've got like personal projects. And my thoughts would just jump between those, and that was it. And it felt like clear.
Okay. That's crazy. And it makes me think, and this is kind of similar to Emmett, your comment right here. Time to think. Have you seen my to-do list? It makes me think you didn't have less to do, in the sense that like it's not like you took a week off of work or took a week off of chores and stuff like that. But it sounds like in your mind, because you weren't constantly flooded with let me double check to make sure I don't have anything to do like right now. You almost were like, I don't have the things I need to do that I thought I did.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. The one thing I want to point out first is like, yeah, I didn't take a week off of work for this. I still worked. I had, dopamine from like Slack and all that, and Gmail and everything. But like, basically on my laptop, I just signed out of all social media, Spotify, all that. But yeah, you were just kind of like, I was way more focused at work, way more productive. Like, I remember how many times I would just try and tab away. I think like Emmett was saying, to like Twitter, because like either the build was taking a long time, CI was still going, I was waiting for a PR review, my agents were being really slow. Like, yeah.
Interesting. One other quick question before we move on to probably the last topic, unless you have more time. But one other quick question I'm curious of is, you mentioned how things that you detox from, like things like music, like there was a bigger appreciative of it. One, has that dwindled over time now that you have kind of like you have other dopamine hits during the day? But then 2, was the stuff that what I would consider would be, like negative dopamine hits for the most part, social media, stuff like that, did those feel different as well at the end of it?
So so 2 things there. The second one was, can you say that one more time?
Second one would be, did the negative dopamine hits, or the non-positive in a lot of ways, did those feel different? Whether like, oh, it felt better in some ways because like I hadn't done this for a week. And then the first question would be, did the things that you missed that you feel are a benefit, did that feeling dwindle over time?
Got it. Okay. So yeah, two things come to mind. I'll say music and then like social media. For music, after I got access to music again, I was like, oh, like, like I missed it, but it wasn't like an incredible joy, if you will.
It wasn't like
It
seeing
was
your
like
family after a week kind of thing.
Yeah, it wasn't that. It wasn't as like momentous or like positive or like life-changing as it felt like it was in the moment. I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of nice, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. I think I'm a little bit more intentional about when I put music on rather than just grabbing finding a playlist on Spotify and hitting play. It's more of like, what do I actually want to listen to? Like the other day, somebody on Twitter was talking about Linkin Park. And so I listened to an old album and it like put me back into like the high school days.
Yeah.
And then the social media side, I was already trying to kind of like distance myself from it on my phone anyway. So I logged out of it on my browser and that habit has stuck where I'm like not checking X on my phone. I still have the friction of like, I have an idea for something I want to tweet and I like get overwhelmed. I'm like, should I put it in Notion on my phone? Should I text it to myself? Like, am I going to remember? That hasn't been solved, but whatever. But it has been good. Like one thing that came out of that was like, I have Gmail on my phone because sometimes I need my email on the go. Like I'm doing a Target return and my wife emailed me the receipt. So like I can still access it, but like when I open the app, it doesn't show anything. Like you have to like go to like settings and like toggle it on. Okay. So that's been great.
That's cool. The tweet idea should go into a blog post. That's good.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Intentionality over random impulse. Yes. I love that. Speaking about intentionality, one more quick topic before we wrap up. I'm curious, you kind of have this thought here of raising sons and manhood. So I'm just what's that?
Ooh.
I have three brothers, and so like I don't have a son yet. And maybe I have number 3 due in January, but I don't know if it's going to be a boy or a girl yet. But it's obviously important to me. And so I'm curious to know, why have you been thinking about it? I think that's always a good question. Like what triggered this? Yeah.
So hold on, let me grab. I got right here. Side.
Emmett says that's a whole other episode. It is. So we'll just like get a snippet from Joe, and then we'll have to make him detox again, write a blog post about it, and then we'll read the whole blog post. That'll be it.
So, I spend a lot of time on Twitter, and maybe many of the people here, and I wish I could remember what tweet it was. I think so. If you're familiar with the podcast My First Million, there's a guy, one of the hosts, his name is Sam Parr. Yeah. So Sam's like bootstrapped a company, it got acquired, and now he's made a bunch of money and he's making, another company. He was talking about this idea, I guess, of like manhood and what it means to be a man in society today.
Okay.
And kind of saying how like, women naturally have this way of going from a girl to a woman, right? Through like puberty and things like that. Like their bodies naturally evolve. With men, like, how do you know when you go from like being a boy to a man, right? Like there's probably not a single definition that everybody in the world agrees upon. Either a society, a country, whatever. And so Sam tweeted something along those lines, and somebody recommended this book, which is called Raising a Modern Day Knight. It's definitely a religious book. It's the author is like either a pastor or Christian based. But it just kind of set me down this rabbit hole of like what it means to be a man. Because that's something that like, I feel like I didn't have a very good transition personally of like feeling like a boy to like a young adult to like being a man, right? And like I'm married, I'm 31, I have kids. So that sent me down like this rabbit hole. And it's just something I've been thinking about. And in this, they talk about creating basically an initiation ceremony for your son. And I have a son, and so I'm obviously that's something I want to do. And the reason this topic is on my mind again is because my mom is super Catholic, and she got me this book, which is similar, but it's like a modern version. And then somebody else like when I hear a book like 3 times, I'm like, okay, I got to read it. And so this one I read recently. It's called Boys Adrift, and it's just kind of like, this book talks about like it says, we have an epidemic of unmotivated boys and underachieving young men. It talks about a lot of the ideas behind it. And so it's just something that I've been thinking about a lot in terms of like, what does it mean to go from a young man or a boy to a man? How do you prepare that environment if you're a father? And how can we help like young men? Like there's young men who are like graduating college who like can't find jobs because of AI, get addicted to video games and other things in the world. So yeah, there's a lot of books, we could talk a whole lot about this. Wild at Heart, I think I've heard of somebody. I've got another one here, which I haven't read, called Point Man. But Wild at Heart sounds familiar too. So yeah, I don't know. I'll stop there. There's a whole many tangents we could go down.
Yeah, there's a lot that we can go down. I'm curious of, and I probably have about another 10 minutes or so. I'm curious. It kind of sounds like this and the initial topic that you brought are not far apart in a lot of ways. And I think I've seen this as well in the sense of like, I'm not saying that I have all the answers and that I am perfect in this scenario, but I, through just, friends, family, and then people I know at my church, know quite a bit of young men in the sense of like they're high school age, graduated. It is wild to me how from a complete general standpoint, so obviously there are exceptions, but just from what I had experienced when I was that age compared to now just seems so vastly different. And I don't know all of what factors of society come into play, but just from a standpoint of I remember like I wanted to get a job like as quickly as possible because one, I could like make money and then like actually like eat my own food or like stuff like that. I could go to McDonald's without having to ask my parents. So like I umpired baseball when I was 14 and I did refereeing from soccer when I was like 15. I didn't have like job until 19. I think I was 18 in sense of like a W-2 job. But like I wanted that. And then also I knew I had so many things I wanted to be when I grew up in the sense of I wanted to either be like a professional musician or be in SNL and like do like acting or something in between. Or then I was like, okay, maybe I could do, like graphic design, stuff like that. And so there's so many things, even at 12, 13, 14, that I remember like, I'm just going to try to learn all these things. And I had garage bands that I was a part of, and I had all these things I like experimented with the goal of maybe I could like make a living out of this. And I know so many kids now that are like, they're okay with, and again, not anything about like part-time jobs or anything, but that they're okay with like where they're at and they don't know what they're wanting to do with their life. Super general, but it seems bigger than it was when like I had so many friends that I thought they didn't know what to do with their life, and they're like, but they also were like, okay, I'm like gonna go to college and this is what I'm gonna study, and they're like, I don't really care, but they still did it. And now I have they're like 18, 19, 20-year olds that I know that some of them like they're like, I don't need to learn how to drive, like my mom can drive me around kind of thing. I'm like, dude, you're 19, like I know 19-year-old, like in our tech bubble, we see so many people who are like 17, 18, 19-year-olds who are like, oh yeah, you're like a founder of a $3 billion company or whatever. And we might like brag on them in the moment. But it's also like seems like it is the extremes of those folks and the others have gotten wider over the years.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's hard because like a lot of this is like secondhand knowledge. Like I'm not
Yeah.
around, you know, I went, like I said last week, and played basketball at that church, and there was a vast like difference in age where it was like high schoolers recently graduated to like, men probably in their 40s.
Mm.
You're just playing basketball, so you have no idea if they're like motivated. Like outside of
Yeah.
basketball, making a shot, who knows? Yeah, so it's super fascinating. I have a younger brother who's 12 years younger. He's definitely motivated. And I try to ask him some of these things to see like, oh, like, is this true? Is this book, making a generalization, or is like there's some truth to it? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just really interesting. And so if it is true and there is an epidemic of unmotivated boys, it's like, okay, what part can I play in my son's life? And then what part can I play in my community? And like, probably one of the more immediate takeaways from these books is like, if I were to do an initiation ceremony with my son, and like one of them was like suggesting 12 men of different ages, who would I call on right now? And I don't feel like I have 12 men I could call on. It would take a lot of thinking. I've got a few here and there, but it's like, one, they should be from different ages, like different generations, but like, I don't feel like I have that even just for myself.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's hard to get it outside of church, to be frank. I'm trying to think of other ways, unless you happen to have it in your family. Like it requires a lot of effort, I guess, is what I'm saying. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. But yeah, like kind of like what you said. It's like we could debate about like what pushed and kind of made this happen within society. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? Like both as
Exactly.
fathers, like even if I don't have a son,
Yeah.
like I feel like there's a lot that I can still do to push that. Like I like telling like young men and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, hey, I don't know what you're passionate about, but here's what like I've had to learn myself. And I love like telling those stories of like I thought I had my whole life figured out. I was going to be on SNL and like I was planning like this whole thing. And then I learned like that's not going to pay the bills if I ever wanted a family. Like I'm not going to just be a waiter and try to go to auditions for 5 nights a week and do that. Like there's probably people who with families who do all that, but I knew that I wanted something better at the same time. I mean, bro, you still got time. Maybe my goal is like if I get rich and famous enough, then I'll be like what's Nate Bargatze? He's like 43 or something like that. He's might even be older than that, honestly. And he didn't start getting. He did like comedy and did stand-up specials and did mostly like church and other stuff because he couldn't break out of it for like 10 years before he even got invited to SNL. Crazy. By SNL. I don't think I'll be that rich. Maybe we'll see. But yeah, I love that topic, Joe.
Yeah.
You should write a blog post about it. Then we'll go for it.
Deal. Okay. Maybe after I finish this book.
Yeah, I love it. What do you got going on this next week? So we always wrap up Riff and Refine with it's an ode to Aaron Francis had an old show before he canceled it called This Week and Next Week. It was basically like, hey, accountability. Here's what I did. Here's what I'm planning on doing. So that way you can hold me accountable. So it's more of like a just saying it out in the open kind of forces you to do it. I told 2 weeks ago is when I said I'm going to do a daily podcast, and then it kind of forced me to do it. But yeah, what's next week for you?
Next week. Next week, I would really like to play pickleball at this indoor facility.
Okay. The Glendale one?
The Pickler in Scottsdale.
Scottsdale. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a new one? It's a new one?
It's pretty new. Yeah, I want to say it's maybe like a year or two old. It's fairly new.
Okay.
So play there because I think it'll be a different level of competition. You know, you can play in like a rated group, so you know everybody's at least this rating.
Yeah.
It's like $20 for 2 hours, so I just got to figure out when I'm going to do it after work.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is a side project idea that I'm testing out is this wellness community for software engineers.
Okay.
And I just got somebody to sign up last night, so I need to like make it happen. So next week we'll be like creating the group, setting up like the monthly health challenge, like a sprint, setting up a leaderboard. So yeah.
Let's go. Says that. I love it. That's so cool. Yeah, me next week. I am still fully in on this like keytar that I'm building. So I've got like all the pieces. Now I actually have to figure out how am I going to 3D print the actual case that I can then maneuver all these pieces and stuff like that. And like I found out that I don't even have to. I was going to use an iPad for the computer that it uses to produce sound, but I found out I can just use my phone. And so I'm going to do that. I literally can have all the apps that I need for like the synth sounds that I've been practicing with it, like just straight from my phone. And then I'm like, okay, that's one thing, less thing I have to worry about. I have like a MagSafe like charger that I'm going to mount on it. That way it just like kind of sits there, charges, one cable to connect everything. It's going to be pretty cool. So this next week, I'm hoping to start learning how to build the 3D printed stuff. I know how to modify existing 3D printed files. I don't know how to build from scratch. And so I'm going to figure that out. Mostly, I don't know how I'm going to change because I don't have a 3D printer big enough for how long I need it. So I need to learn how to build like an interlocking system that I can then like either screw together to make it longer or maybe just clip together. So yeah, that's gonna be a thing I learn.
That's a fun challenge.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'll be an industrial designer by the and then I'm also working on a side project. This one more is like I always like trying to build things. And when it comes, especially like AI, like learning new things, and I think AI sucks right now at design. Like,
yeah.
And so I want to build this, basically like an AI case study platform. So like, basically like you put in like a whole bunch of content and it creates like a better looking presentation or just like a one pager. And so I'm going to like try to figure out how do I make AI better at design. Like that's the goal of like the whole project. So that's my next week.
Nice. That sounds sick. Yeah. I definitely feel like I have never had any luck with designing a logo or just trying to do some good design. So curious how that'll go.
Yeah. And I think the approach is probably going to be less of like generated stuff and more of like code to print. Like I think that's the easiest win of like if you had a page that is just code and then you like export that as a PDF. That's why I'm gonna be curious of like what's the difference and is one better than the other. So I'm curious.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Curious to hear how it goes.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks so much for everyone. That's what you're doing this next week. I need to work on my dashboard affirmations app, logo included. My Good Makers Morning podcast is a generated logo. There's nothing too crazy about it, but it turned out pretty good enough where it's like I think I used ChatGPT and I gave it like a couple different prompts and like I took it in Figma and centered it a bit.
Okay.
They never center it right. It's like, hey, here's like a square. Right. It's like halfway over here. I'm like, this doesn't work as a logo.
Yeah. Centering,
and then trying to get it Yeah, centering is hard. Going back to the age old, how do you center something in CSS? I guess AI doesn't know either.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, is there anything that you'd like to give like a shout out for, Joe, other than your blog? You got your website. What's a good shout out before we peace out?
Oh, I would say go do the dopamine detox. I would love if more people would try it and like share their experience, because I selfishly am curious.
Yeah.
So I'd say go do that.
Sweet. I love it. Well, yeah, everyone, go do that. And for those who are watching, thanks so much for being here. Hopefully, Joe, you have a great next week. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being part of the Riff and Refine show. I love it. And
thanks for having me. This was awesome. And thanks everybody in the chat for participating.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you all next week, next Friday, same time, same place. See ya.